Hello everyone, I am Nishant. So this is my second video on how to determine the weather forecast for different cities. In my first video, I have determined the weather forecast based upon a certain predefined locations. However, in this video, I'm going to demonstrate to you how the weather forecast is determined for user defined location. So whatever the location you type, you would be getting the weather forecast for that city. I have developed a web application using the Flask module. So this Flask module is almost similar to the Django and Pyramid module in Python, which is mainly used for web application development. So coming into the code, as you have already seen in my previous video, here is the API key that is generated for my profile. And this API key is global for all the applications that I use with the OpenweatherMap application. And the extreme conditions as we determine are the rain, snow, and the freezing temperature. Since the freezing temperature is not in the database, we determine the freezing temperature if the temperature is less than 2 degrees Fahrenheit. So here is the here is the complete final URL for two different applications. So this forecast URL determines the weather as well as various factors such as the precipitation, the city, the date and time, etc. So this is the URL, and this is the URL for the forecast and for the to determine the current weather in a particular location or a city. So this is the URL that's been obtained from the OpenweatherMap API. So once these URLs are obtained, we try to establish a connection with the MongoDB with the MongoDB database. So we try to establish the connection on the default connection of the computer. So fortunately, our connection was successful, and we are able to connect the Python with the we are able to connect the Python with the MongoDB. So as you have already seen this, previously, so the fetch forecast data for a city determines I mean, so set for, the first fetch forecast data for a city returns out the freeze readings as well as the extreme readings. So the freeze readings are nothing but the temperature, and the temperatures which are less than 2 degrees centigrade, and the extreme readings are nothing but the temperature. Extreme readings are nothing but the temperatures. Um, temperatures where there is rain or snow. So where there is rain or snow. So from this function with the fetch forecast data, it takes one argument, which is city name. So as we are defining predicting the weather forecast for different cities, we take each different type of city name as the argument given by the user. So from this data, you would be obtaining the freeze readings as well as the extreme readings in the form of a list. Nextly, fetch current data for a city function gives you the current data current weather readings in the city that's been passed as an argument of this function. So later, the get map for a city functions returns the map path, and it stores the map of and it stores the city map with its corresponding latitudes and longitudes by a zoom level of 1, and x and y parameters as one. So in this, among these all three functions, you pass one common module, one common key, which is the API key. So this API key is the key that is generated for your account when you subscribe it on a OpenweatherMap application. So we have seen all these. So we have seen all these functions in our previous video as well. So, however, in order to develop the web application framework, we are using Flask. So, so, so this is where this is where you try to establish the connection from the database to Flask. So the instance of the Flask is created later. So over here, the instance of the Flask is created. Now, in order to determine various readings on the web application, you need to have a templates. So here at this point of line, which is in the line 101, you basically determine which URL you need to route your web application. So in this function, which is the define index, so the basic the default city that it generally takes is the city London. So whenever the request is obtained, so we take that request and pass it to our our functions. So now in order to combine all these interfaces, we need to find it. We need to store our data in the templates. So templates will be stored in a templates layout over here. So the template layouts, which obviously stores the HTML extension in order to generate a web application. So yeah, in this exception handling cases, you basically pass all the above functions, and you get written the responses from each of the functions. So once the responses is obtained from for example, from the forecast response, you would be obtaining a list. You'd be obtaining a list of freezing readings and extreme readings, and similarly, you'd be obtaining the responses for the current you'd be obtaining the response from this function, the temperature, the current temperatures, and for the path, you'd be there would be images of the map generated, and it's displayed and saved in the static folder. So once all these are obtained, you basically integrate all these functions using the multi-processing. So later the freeze alerts are set in order to alert the user if there is if there are extreme conditions in the next coming 5 days. So yeah. So I have used the render template. I have used templates. The templates that are used are to render HTML, which displays the user recommended functions. So basically we are displaying the we are displaying the name of the city, as well as temperature, the current temperature, and if there is freeze alert or if there is extreme alert. So basically, all these objects were obtained from the functions over here, and that are passed in the root in the root. So yeah. Now going into the index HTML, you have, I mean, as it's pretty obvious in a HTML file where you would be having the head, body, and head, body, and there are different types of stylings. So I mean, it's pretty obvious that in the head you would be it would be entitling the title, and in the body you would be displaying what you would write the functions that whatever those are required. So coming to the bottom, as you can see over the here, the conditions and the loops. So based upon the country code, you'd be getting the information of uh, which country it's in, and the city name, as well as coordinates, in order to these coordinates are used in order to generate the map, and the temperature is obtained in Fahrenheit. So as you can see, all these function I mean all these objects in a double curly braces are the outputs, and single curly braces implies the conditions. So these are so these are the various conditions and how you define the weather alerts. So now let's try to run the program. So I'm running the program right now. And as soon as you run the program, you can see a pop-up saying that debugging mode is on, and you see a list of all the databases as well as collection names. So now let's try to open the browser which the web application is opened on. So yeah, it's here. So the weather forecast for the London is here, as you can see. So on the left, you can see the forecast of temperature in London for the next coming 5 days, and you can see like the required information, which is the country, city name, location, temperature, and various factors that you want to be considered over here. So yeah, and it is also observed that there is extreme alert in the city of London, that there is rain in the next coming few days, and yeah. So let's try to run it for the different locations and for the user defined location. So these are the locations that I have tried previously, and the maps would be generated and also saved in the static folder that you created in the project directory. So let's try to look for a location, for example, Texas, for example, Austin. Let's try to look at, unfortunately, there is no city name Austin in the provided data set. So let's try running it for Minnesota, which I have already tried. Oops, sorry, my spelling is. Yeah. As you can see, the weather forecast for Minnesota over here, so the temperatures are pretty obvious that it's very quite freezing over there. And yes, it's, as we already know, there is a freeze alert in temperature every time. So I've used Minnesota just to confirm there is freeze alert, and yeah, and the current temperature now in Minnesota is 9.75, and these are all the current temperature readings. So now let's try to run it for Mumbai. So yeah, as you can see over here, there are no extreme condition forecasts in the next coming 5 days in Mumbai. Is like there is no snow, no rain, or no freezing temperatures, and the current temperature is observed to be 78 degree Fahrenheit, And yeah, these and you can see that temperatures are gradually increasing over the days, and it yeah. So on your right, you can see the weather forecast. On your right, you can see the map for the forecast for the next coming few days. And let's try it for one last time. And Australia, Sydney. So yeah, you can see the forecast for Sydney is like ranging from 90 degree to a low of 60-65 degree. And yeah, you can see the coordinates over here and the current temperature, and there is an extreme alert saying that there is rain on the next coming few days. And yeah, feel free to try with the code and try it for your user defined locations. So I have not implemented if the a city name that is not available in the location data set provided by the open weather. So yeah, hopefully that would be my next coming step in order to uh, tackle the challenge. Thank you so much. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, and stay safe and happy holidays.